In the far edge of the galaxy, silence ruled the empty stars. But not for long, a lone human warship drifted into the sector, small and almost fragile compared to the giant alien vessels that patrolled nearby. It looked like a simple scout ship, old and weak. No one could imagine that this tiny ship had any real power. To the aliens, it was nothing but a joke. From the command deck of the alien flagship, Admiral Kor laughed loudly. "This is what the humans send us," he said, his voice filled with pride and arrogance. The bridge crew joined in the laughter, calling it a toy, a mistake, a relic. Messages spread quickly through the alien channels, mocking humanity's weakness. For the aliens, this was entertainment. They believed the war would be over before it even started. On Earth, people watched the broadcast with heavy hearts. Human colonies across the stars also received the transmission. They saw their warship being insulted, ridiculed, and laughed at. Many humans felt ashamed, thinking that maybe their leaders had made a terrible mistake. Even human allies from other worlds questioned the purpose of sending such a small vessel against a mighty armada. Was humanity foolish enough to risk humiliation in front of the galaxy? Inside the tiny warship, the crew stayed calm. The captain, an older man with sharp eyes, stood in silence. He did not answer the insults. He did not explain anything. He only looked at the tactical screen where the alien fleet glowed like fireflies against the dark. The crew followed his silence. Every officer knew they carried something hidden, something no one outside the ship could understand. The aliens, however, grew bolder. One of their cruisers approached close and began circling the small human vessel, flashing bright lights like a predator teasing its prey. Alien soldiers laughed across open comms, sending taunts. They called the ship useless, pathetic, a waste of fuel. They promised to destroy it with a single shot. The captain still said nothing. His crew still waited in silence. There was no fear in their eyes, only patience. They were trained for this very moment. They knew the truth about their ship. The aliens only saw weakness, but hidden inside the vessel was something beyond imagination. Admiral Kor gave the order to attack. Alien ships began to move into formation, surrounding the small human craft. Dozens of warships, armed with weapons strong enough to burn moons, gathered around. It looked like a giant storm about to swallow a small boat. The galaxy tuned in to watch the moment of destruction. Billions of eyes waited for the tiny warship to be crushed. Yet inside the human ship, no panic rose. The captain gave a small nod to his first officer. The order was quiet, but every crew member heard it clearly. They prepared the hidden systems. Power surged deep inside the core of the vessel. The walls of the ship began to hum. The crew felt the vibration under their boots. The alien scanners detected strange energy readings but ignored them. They thought the ship was simply breaking down. They could not be more wrong. The alien fleet was ready, weapons locked, their laughter still echoing. They did not know what awaited them. They did not know that this was not a toy ship, not a relic, not a mistake. This was humanity's secret blade, hidden for years, waiting for the right time. And that time was about to begin. The captain finally spoke, his voice calm, steady, and sharp. "Let them laugh," he said, "because their laughter will be their last." The crew tightened their grips on their consoles. The humming grew louder. The small warship glowed faintly under the starlight, and the galaxy held its breath. The mockery was ending. The truth was about to begin. The alien armada tightened its circle, their massive ships glowing like a wall of fire around the tiny human vessel. Each alien ship was larger, heavier, and stronger than the warship they mocked. It looked like a lion's pride surrounding a single cub. The galaxy believed the end was near. Admiral Kor raised his clawed hand and gave the command. "All weapons ready, let us crush this toy," he declared with arrogance. Alien crews shouted with excitement, ready to destroy. Their comms carried laughter that spread across space like poison. Billions of viewers across the galaxy tuned in, waiting for the small human warship to vanish. On Earth, humans stared at the broadcast with hopeless eyes. In colonies far away, children asked why humanity had sent such a weak ship. Even human leaders began to doubt, whispering among themselves, had they made a mistake? Had they sent their people to die? Fear spread faster than light. The pride of humanity felt like it was collapsing. But inside the warship, silence ruled. The crew sat firm, hands ready on the controls, eyes sharp, hearts steady. They did not argue. They did not panic. They trusted the captain and the secret they carried. The silence was stronger than the alien laughter. It was the silence of confidence. One alien cruiser moved in closer, weapons armed, ready to fire. On the open channel, its commander spoke with cruel joy. "Humans, surrender your toy before we shatter it. You are weak, we are strong." The words echoed across space, but the human captain did not answer. He stood like stone, watching the tactical screen. His first officer leaned close and whispered, "Captain, they are about to strike." The captain's eyes narrowed, his voice calm. "Let them." The officer nodded, but deep inside, the tension was rising. Every crew member could feel it. The first shot would decide everything. The alien cruiser unleashed a powerful blast. A beam of pure plasma shot forward, bright enough to blind distant sensors. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the warship to explode. But instead, something strange happened. The plasma beam struck the hull. Instead of tearing through the metal, the energy bent, wrapped, and vanished. The warship's armor absorbed it like water into sand. The glow of the ship's surface shimmered for a moment, then went dark again. The alien crews gasped in shock. Admiral Kor's laughter stopped, replaced by confusion. Across the galaxy, voices rose. What is happening? Why is the ship still there? Did the human vessel survive that? Inside the warship, the crew remained calm. The captain spoke quietly. They still do not understand. They see size, not strength. The ship's engineer reported, energy shields are stable, plasma fully absorbed. The crew shared small smiles, the first signs of confidence in their faces, but the aliens refused to accept it. Admiral Kor slammed his fist and roared, "Fire again, all ships, fire now!" Dozens of alien vessels unleashed their weapons at once. Beams, missiles, and energy cannons rained down like a storm of death. The space around the human warship burned with violent light. The galaxy thought the end had finally come. Yet when the fire cleared, the warship still stood. Not a scratch, not a single mark. The tiny vessel floated in silence, glowing faintly with hidden power. The galaxy went silent. Even humans who doubted now leaned forward with wide eyes. Something was happening, something beyond imagination. The aliens scanned desperately, their sensors screamed warnings. Strange energy signals rising from the human ship. The readings made no sense, it was impossible. It was as if the warship carried the energy of a planet inside its frame. Panic began to grow in alien hearts. Whispers spread. What is this ship? What are the humans hiding? The captain finally spoke again, his words soft but sharp. They wanted to laugh at us, let them laugh no more. The crew readied their consoles, the hidden cyst. EMS began to wake. The hum deep within the warship grew louder. The light across the hull shimmered again, brighter, stronger. Something ancient, something secret was coming alive. The alien Armada, once confident, now felt fear. They had mocked the warship. They had mocked humanity. But now, doubt spread like fire among them. They realized the toy might be a blade, and that blade was ready to cut. The galaxy still waited. Billions of eyes locked on the screen. The mockery had turned into silence. Silence that carried only one question. What was hidden inside the tiny warship? The alien Armada floated in silence. Their weapons had unleashed storms of fire, yet the small human ship remained untouched. The laughter that once filled the comms had died, replaced by whispers of fear. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The toy ship was not what they believed. Inside the human vessel, the crew felt the hum rising deeper in the core. Panels flickered with streams of energy, symbols glowing in patterns even the crew barely understood. This was not only human technology, it was something more, something discovered and kept secret for years. The captain placed his hand on the console and gave the order. Activate the Sentinel system. The hull of the warship began to shift. Plates of dark alloy unfolded, revealing hidden layers of luminous armor. Lines of blue and silver light spread across the ship like veins of living fire. The small vessel no longer looked fragile. It now looked alive, ancient, and unstoppable. Admiral Kor slammed his fist against his command chair. "What trick is this? No human ship has such power," he roared, but his voice cracked with doubt. His crew looked at him nervously, for the readings on their screens were impossible. The human warship radiated more energy than an entire fleet. The galaxy watched in awe. Commentators fell silent. Billions of beings leaned closer to their screens, unable to blink. They knew they were witnessing something that would change history. The captain's voice echoed through the ship, calm and steady. They thought we were weak. They thought this was a toy. Now they will learn. His first officer replied with fire in her eyes. Weapons charged. Sentinel is awake. The crew tightened their grips, their silence now filled with deadly confidence. One alien destroyer, desperate to break the tension, launched a full missile barrage. Hundreds of warheads streaked across the dark void, glowing like meteors. They struck the warship's glowing armor, then vanished. Every missile dissolved on contact, erased by a field of energy beyond comprehension. The destroyer's crew froze, their courage broken. Then the human warship moved. It did not crawl like an old vessel. It vanished and reappeared in an instant, warping space around it. The aliens gasped, their sensors struggling to track it. The small ship had turned into a phantom, a ghost dancing among giants. The captain gave a simple command: fire. The Sentinel unleashed its first weapon. A single lance of white energy burst from its core, silent and pure. It tore through space and struck the alien destroyer. The massive ship split apart in an instant. Reduced to fire and silence, the galaxy screamed in shock. On Earth, cheers erupted. Colonies across the stars cried with joy. The warship that was mocked as a toy had just destroyed a vessel 10 times its size with a single shot. Hope returned to human hearts. The humiliation of mockery turned into pride. But the aliens felt fear. Admiral Kor's crew stared at the wreckage, their hands shaking. What is this power? How do humans possess such a weapon? One whispered. Kor silenced him with a glare, but even the admiral's heart was trembling. This was no ordinary ship. This was a predator disguised as prey. The captain of the warship raised his head, his voice low, sharp, and unshaken. This was only the beginning. The crew prepared the next systems deep inside. The vessel, more hidden weapons were awakening. The Sentinel was not done. The galaxy had seen the first strike, but what was coming next would shake every empire to its core. The tiny warship, mocked and laughed at, had revealed its teeth, and the Armada, once so confident, now faced the storm they never expected. The wreckage of the alien destroyer drifted through the void, flames flickering across the shattered hull. Silence fell over the alien Armada. A fleet that once mocked, once laughed, now stared in horror at what one small warship had done. The toy had bitten, and its bite was death. Admiral Kor gritted his teeth, fury burning in his eyes. One ship cannot defeat us, he growled, his voice echoing across the bridge. Form battle lines, close the circle, and crush it. The alien fleet obeyed, ships spreading into a web of firepower, each weapon trained on the small glowing vessel. Inside the warship, the crew sat calm, their hands steady, their eyes focused. The captain gave no speech, no long command, only a nod. They had been waiting for this moment. The Sentinel pulsed with light as if alive, its systems awakened further, layers of hidden power peeling back. The hum that filled the corridors grew into a low roar, like the heartbeat of a giant. The aliens fired, beams of plasma, streaks of antimatter, swarms of missiles, all rushed toward the small vessel. The galaxy held its breath as the void turned into fire, but then the impossible happened again. The Sentinel vanished, not destroyed, not broken, but gone. The alien weapons tore into empty space, exploding harmlessly into the dark. Confusion spread through the Armada. "Where is it?" cried one alien commander. Their sensors scanned wildly, alarms blaring, and then it reappeared right behind them. The human warship fired a second shot, a spear of pure energy. An alien cruiser split in half, its engines bursting in silent flame. Debris scattered across the battlefield. Another Titan had fallen to the so-called toy. Panic spread. Alien voices filled the comms. Fear breathed, awking through their discipline. "They move too fast. Our sensors can't track them. This is impossible. No human ship should do this." The mighty fleet of predators sounded like prey. The captain of the Sentinel stood tall, his voice calm as he ordered, "Engage Phase 2. Panels across the ship lit brighter. The hull shifted again, forming sharp angles, radiating more power. The warship no longer looked small. It looked like a blade forged of starlight. a blade meant to cut through armadas. The Sentinel darted forward faster than light. It weaved between alien battleships, striking like lightning. Each shot destroyed another vessel. One beam erased a destroyer. One pulse disabled a carrier. Another strike shattered a gunship into burning shards. The Armada roared in chaos. Commanders shouted orders, but fear had already infected them. Ships tried to regroup, tried to lock on target, but every second the Sentinel vanished and reappeared. It was not a ship anymore. It was death itself moving through the void. On Earth, humans cried tears of pride. Colonies cheered, their faith restored. Children who had watched their ship mocked now shouted with joy. The small warship had become a legend in a single battle. The humiliation was gone, replaced by awe. But inside the alien flagship, fear turned into desperation. Admiral Kor roared, "Focus everything on it. Sacrifice ships if you must. Kill it before it destroys us all." Yet even as he spoke, the Sentinel charged. Its weapons aligned with the flagship itself. The glow at its core brightened until it blinded every sensor. The galaxy gasped, knowing something immense was about to happen. The captain whispered a single word, "Fire." And the Sentinel unleashed a storm. Not one beam, not one strike, but a wave of energy that tore across the battlefield. Alien ships screamed as their shields collapsed, their hulls shattered. Red, one by one, warships exploded in silence. The darkness of space filled with burning wreckage. The Armada, once unstoppable, was being torn apart by a vessel they once mocked. The predator had become prey, and the prey had become a monster. The battle was no longer a show, it was a massacre, and it had only just begun. The void burned with wreckage, alien cruisers drifted as broken shells, carriers split open, destroyers torn apart. The mighty Armada that once mocked humanity was bleeding, yet the small human warship stood untouched, glowing brighter with every strike. Admiral Kor's face twisted with rage and fear. He could not accept what he was seeing. One ship was destroying the pride of his empire. "Sacrifice the outer fleets," he roared. "Buy time, surround them, force them into one place." But even as his words spread, his commanders hesitated. No one wanted to face the phantom ship. Fear had already poisoned their hearts. The Sentinel moved like lightning. It vanished and reappeared between battleships, carving through armor with beams of white fire. Alien guns fired wildly, but every blast missed. The human ship danced through the storm as if it knew their moves before they fired. It was not only power, it was intelligence, strategy, something beyond alien understanding. Inside the ship, the crew felt the pressure rise. The energy core roared like a living heart, pulsing with more force than ever before. "System stable," the engineer reported, sweat on his forehead. "Phase 3 is ready." The captain gave a nod, his voice sharp. "Activate it." The warship transformed again. Its hull opened, revealing hidden wings of radiant alloy that stretched like blades. Light poured out, surrounding the ship in a glowing field. Alien scanners screamed with warnings. Energy levels off the charts, beyond any recorded weapon. The Sentinel was no longer just a ship. It was a storm given form. A group of alien battleships rushed forward, sacrificing themselves to trap it. They formed a wall, cannons ready. Their goal was not victory, but to buy. Time for the flagship. The captain of the Sentinel only said one word: engage. The ship responded like a predator unleashed. It tore through the wall in seconds, beams slicing, wings cutting, explosions filling the void. 5 battleships reduced to ashes. The trap had failed. Across the galaxy, fear spread like wildfire. Other alien empires watched the broadcast in silence. They had mocked humanity too. They had laughed at their weakness. Now they watched in terror. If one human ship could do this, what more was hidden? The Armada's second line fired together. Thousands of weapons at once. Space lit up like a star, but the Sentinel raised a shimmering shield. Every shot bent, shattered, and vanished. Not one touched the hull. The crew sat in silence, their calm stronger than the chaos outside. Then the warship struck back. It unleashed a pulse from its core. A wave of energy rippled outward, invisible yet deadly. Alien ships froze, their systems shutting down. Engines went dark, shields collapsed, weapons fell silent. In an instant, Dozens of warships became helpless statues drifting in space. The Sentinel moved among them like a ghost and destroyed each one with precise surgical strikes. Admiral Cor's bridge shook with fear. His officers shouted in panic, "Half the fleet is gone. Our weapons can't touch it. It is unstoppable." The Admiral roared to silence them, but his hands trembled. He knew the truth. This battle was lost. On Earth, humans cheered with pride. Colonies sent signals of joy, voices of unity. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity not as weak, not as fragile, but as a force to fear. The Sentinel was rewriting history with every strike, but inside the ship, the crew knew it was not over. The captain's eyes were cold, his voice steady. "They still think they can fight," he said. "Let us show them the truth." The crew prepared the final thing. Systems. Deep in the core, something darker, something deadlier, was waiting to be unleashed. The battle was turning. The aliens were broken, but the Sentinel had not yet shown its final hand. And when it did, the galaxy itself would tremble. The battlefield burned with wreckage. Alien warships drifted as hollow shells, their broken frames lit by fire. The once proud Armada now looked like a graveyard. Yet still the Sentinel hovered in silence, glowing like a star forged for war, untouched and unbroken. Admiral Cor's voice shook with fury and despair. "This cannot be," he growled. "No human ship can do this. No ship should exist with such power." His crew avoided his gaze, their faces pale with fear. Every report screamed the same truth. The Armada was dying. The Predator had become prey, and prey had become the executioner. Inside the Sentinel, the hum of the core reached a thunderous roar. The walls glowed, every console flashing with light. The ship itself seemed alive. The engineer shouted, "Phase 4 is ready," his voice trembling. The captain gave a cold nod. "Prepare the final weapon." The ship's armor shifted again, opening to reveal a massive rail system along its spine. A weapon hidden for centuries. A weapon humanity had sworn never to use unless the galaxy itself threatened their survival. The railgun, powered by a core older than empires, charged with energy bright enough to rival a sun. The aliens panicked. Sensors screamed with warnings. Their commanders shouted desperate orders. "Scatter the fleet. Move out of range." But it was already too late. The Sentinel locked onto them with precision no escape could break. Across the galaxy, entire worlds watched in silence. Billions of eyes stared at the small warship preparing to unleash the unthinkable. They had mocked it, laughed at it, dismissed it as weak. Now they watched in terror, knowing this was no warship. It was judgment. The captain raised his hand slowly, his voice calm, steady, almost whispering. "Fire." The railgun unleashed its fury. A beam of condensed matter and energy tore. Across the void, it ripped through ships as if they were paper. One battleship exploded instantly, then another, then another. The wave of destruction spread like fire through dry grass. Dozens of alien warships vanished in seconds. The flagship shook violently as the beam grazed its shields, tearing half of its escort fleet apart. The galaxy gasped in horror. Never had such power been seen. Even the oldest alien empires, who had ruled the stars for millennia, felt fear. If one small warship carried this, what more had humanity hidden? The alien Armada broke. Commanders abandoned their fleets. Ships scattered in every direction, fleeing like prey from a predator. The battlefield became chaos. The once mighty Armada, the pride of an empire, was destroyed, not by a fleet, not by an army, but by a single warship they had mocked. On Earth, cheers thundered across continents. In colonies, people cried with joy. Humanity had faced humiliation and turned it into triumph. The small ship had carried their pride, and it had shattered an empire. But inside the Sentinel, there was no celebration. The crew remained calm, their faces hard, their voices steady. They knew this battle was not only for victory, it was a warning, a message written in fire across the stars. The captain spoke, his words heavy with meaning. "They mocked us. They underestimated us. But now they will remember. The galaxy will never forget this day." The Sentinel glowed brighter, its weapons still alive. The Armada was gone. But its final act had only just begun. The battlefield was silent. The wreckage of the alien Armada drifted like a sea of burning metal. Ships once proud and mighty now floated as lifeless debris. The void smelled of defeat, though no sound carried in space. And at the center of it all stood the Sentinel, glowing like a star born for war, untouched, undefeated, unbroken, on the Ailey. In flagship, Admiral Kor's eyes trembled with fear, his pride shattered, his power gone. The once mighty commander now stared at the human warship as if he had seen a god. His crew sat in silence, no one dared to speak. They all knew the Empire was broken, their legend destroyed. Inside the Sentinel, the crew watched the battlefield with steady eyes. They did not cheer, they did not laugh. They knew their mission was not to boast, but to send a message, and that message would echo across the stars for all time. The captain stood tall, his shadow cast by the glow of the core. He opened a channel not only to the alien fleet, but to every world watching, his voice calm, steady, yet sharp as steel. "Today you mocked humanity," he began, his words slow and heavy. "You thought us weak, you called us fools. You laughed at what you did not understand." He paused, letting silence weigh on the galaxy. "But today your laughter has ended. Today you have seen the truth." His eyes narrowed as the Sentinel pulsed with light. "Humanity does not seek war, but we do not bow, we do not break, and we do not forget. If you strike us, if you mock us, if you threaten our existence, this is what awaits you." The words carried across every channel, across every empire. Billions of beings felt a chill run through them. For in that moment, they understood. Humanity was no longer a small voice in the galaxy. Humanity was a storm, silent until provoked, and unstoppable once awakened. Admiral Kor lowered his head, his pride crushed, his fleet destroyed, his empire humiliated. For the first time in his life, he felt fear, not for himself but for his people. He whispered, "We should never have mocked them." On Earth, people roared with pride. Colonies cried out in triumph. Children shouted the name of the Sentinel as if it were a hero of legend. Humanity's spirit had risen from ashes to fire, and that fire now burned across the stars. The Sentinel turned slowly, its hull glowing with energy. Then, without warning, it vanished into hyperspace, leaving only wreck. Age behind, no one knew where it went, no one knew when it would return. But the legend had been written. One warship against an armada, one message across the galaxy. Never underestimate humanity again. And so the story spread. Whispers became fear. Fear became respect. The galaxy would remember the day when laughter died. And the humans, once mocked, stood as giants among the stars.